Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Story Time with Mr. P. Now, this will be our reading task for this week, which goes alongside our guided reading group work, we're going to focus on some character descriptions, and towards the end of the week, we're going to look at sort of comparing characters and that in books. Now, this is to build up your skills because you all have a character that you are looking at in your guided reading books, and you should all be keeping a track of what they're like, hopefully using the fantastic example that I provided for you. So this week, alongside your weekly task with your guided reading, which is purely just based on comprehension, we're looking at some characters. And then towards the end of the week, once I think that you've got a really good idea of identifying the character traits and being able to describe a character effectively, then you're going to move on to comparing different characters in the books that we read or the videos that I put up. Okay, so because that's the type of work that we're going to be doing in our guided reading groups, where we compare each other's characters and see why they've been created for certain reasons and stuff like that. Okay, so that is why we're doing that work, and this week that is what we're focusing on, looking at characters. Now, the book that I'm going to read is called Fing by David Williams. Now, I'm only going to read the first little bit, but it is a very good book, so maybe you might enjoy it. Alright, so Fing for Percy, Wilfred and Gilbert. There's all thank yous, blah blah. Say hello to Mr. Meek. Say hello to Mrs. Meek. Say hello to Myrtle Meek. And a Fing. This is a story of a child who had everything, but still wanted just one more Fing. So we're just going to read the prologue. Sometimes perfectly nice parents have children who are monsters. Meet the Meeks. This is father, Mr. Maurice Meek. As his name suggests, Mr. Meek is a mild-mannered man. He likes to wear socks with his sandals and would not dare to eat a peach in public. Mr. Meek works as a librarian. He loves libraries as they are quiet, like him. This is a man who wouldn't say boo to a goose, or indeed any species of bird. This is Mother Meek. This is Mother, Mrs. Meredith Meek. She wears her glasses on a chain around her neck. The most embarrassing moment of her life was when she once sneezed on a bus, and everybody turned round and looked. It will not surprise you to learn that she's also a librarian. Meredith met Maurice at the library. They were both so painfully shy that they never spoke a word to each other for the first 10 years of working there. Eventually, across the poetry aisle, Maurice and Meredith fell in love. Some years later they were married, and some years after that they had a baby girl. This is their daughter, Myrtle. You might be thinking that nothing could be sweeter than a little baby girl. Wrong! From the monster she was born, Myrtle was an absolute horror. From the moment she was born, she was an absolute horror. Whatever she was given, dummies, cuddly toys, rubber duckies, the baby demanded more. Myrtle's first ever word was more, and she uttered it on the very day she was born. It was more milk. Baby Myrtle was demanding, even though she had already guzzled a gallon. More was a word that the infant would say over and over and over again. More, more, more. Being meek by name and meek by nature, Maurice and Meredith didn't dare stand up to their monster of a child. Whatever Baby Myrtle wanted, Baby Myrtle got. Her parents bought their baby daughter toys and more toys, even though she would instantly smash them to pieces. Bash, bash, bosh, more, more, more. As a toddler, they gave their daughter crayons and more crayons. Myrtle would use them to scrawl all over the walls, scratch, before snapping them in two. Snap! More, more, more! As they grew bigger and bigger and bigger still, Mr. and Mrs. Meek would feed Myrtle chocolate biscuit after chocolate biscuit after chocolate biscuit. More and more and more. Even though Myrtle would take great delight in spitting the crumbs back in their faces. Splurt. More, more, more. Okay, so that's basically all we're going to read. So the activity that you'll be pretty much focusing on is, oh, look, I've created one here already. Okay, so I've got my character descriptions up there, and I've just identified 2 characters from the book. Okay, for the first probably day, you might have to just look at 1 character, but after that, it'll be a couple. Okay, so we've got Mr. Meek, and this is my short paragraph about describing Mr. Meek. So Mr. Meek is a mild-mannered and polite man. He's so polite that he doesn't even eat a peach in public. He's a very odd dresser as he wears socks with his sandals. Mr. Meek is a very quiet man and loves the library, where he works, as it is also quiet. Okay, so all I've done is just use the information from the text. Myrtle Meek. Myrtle is the only daughter to Mr. and Mrs. Meek. She's the complete opposite of her parents, and she's demanding and rude. Her first word was more, and she's never satisfied with what she has. Okay, so that's a little bit about Myrtle. In essence, that is the task. Okay, we're just looking at identifying our characters and what are some of their strengths and weaknesses and that. Now, as you're reading your guided reading book, some of your characters will change. Okay, so some of them might start off evil. They might get a little bit better, whereas others might start off a bit weak. They might get stronger, and so on. Okay, so we're doing this for the purpose of seeing how an author is able to develop their characters and all that kind of thing. Now, towards the end of the week, as I said, when you become awesome at this, you're going to start using some of these words. So you're going to start comparing characters and looking at similarities and differences. Okay, now we did look at this before in remote learning in terms of similarities and differences to us, but this time we're turning it around and we're looking at comparing the different characters. Okay, so later on we'll identify, okay, what are the similarities between Mr. Meek and Myrtle Meek, and what are the differences? Okay, so they're the type of things that we're going to be working on, and hopefully the books that I choose, you'll be able to clearly identify some definite similarities and differences between some of the characters. Okay, so that is our reading task this week. Now, because we've got our guided reading session on Monday, okay, you will not be required to do a reading task on Monday, because your reading task will be the WebEx group with me, because we're going to be discussing your book and the characters and how it's going and some of the things that you like about the book, and we're going to have a discussion about the book. So that is Monday's task. Okay, this activity will start on Tuesday. Okay, because we only have one reading activity a day, and our reading activity for the day on Monday is the group work. Okay, so you do not need to worry about this until Tuesday. But other than that, hopefully we can identify some good characters and then work on towards comparing characters later on in the week. So good luck.